Good night, Shabbos, everyone. These 5 parshas that we're in now, Truma, Tetzaveh, this week's parsha, Kisisa, Vayakel, Pikudei, they all deal with the building of the Mishkan. The command to build the Mishkan, then the golden calf, and then the actual building of the Mishkan. And then finally the accounting that Moshe Rabbeinu took in order to ensure that everything that he brought in is what went out again. In last week's parsha, we talked about the building of the Mishkan itself, the tabernacle, the buildings, the furniture, all of the appurtenances that were there that were called the Mishkan. This week's parsha, we talk about the clothing that was made, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest, of the Kohen Hedjud, of the regular Kohen. What's fascinating is that how this week's parsha begins. As a segue between last week's parsha, the building of the Mishkan, this week's parsha, the making of the clothing, and then the Ata Tetzaveh B'nai Yisrael, the parsha begins, you should command the B'nai Yisrael, v'yikchei lechem, take for you, shemen zayis zach, you should take for you pure pressed oil, kosis lamar, which is for illumination, lahalos ner tamid, in order to be able to kindle the lamp continually, is the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. Well, the oddity is that why in the world are we talking about the lighting of the menorah? The lighting of the menorah is the functioning of the Mishkan. These parshas are not about the functioning of the Mishkan. That starts in Sefer Vayikra. In the book of Vayikra, that's where Leviticus, that's where we start to talk about the particular things that were done inside the Mishkan. This is just the erection of the building. This is just the building and the materials itself. Why would you tell me about lighting the lights? Why would you tell me about lighting the menorah? Lighting the menorah is part of the function, not part of the building of the Mishkan. Plus, last week's parsha, when we listed all the materials, one of the materials was shemen lamaor, oil for kindling the lights. Again, we wonder, why is that in the list of materials that were collected in order to be able to build the Mishkan? That material is for the functioning of the Mishkan. We don't find any other functions of the Mishkan listed here. We don't find that we collected wheat for the flour, for the meal offerings, or any other kind of animals for the daily sacrifice. We don't find any of that. Why are we talking about the lighting of the lights in between the building of the Mishkan and the making of the clothes? And I think the Torah is telling us something incredible. I think what the Torah is telling us is that this is really the end of last week's parsha, of the building. And that it's telling us that putting up a building is an amazing thing. Building furniture, putting up a structure, all of that is awesome. But it's not completed until you turn the lights on. And when you turn the lights on, when there's something that illuminates it, then it's completed. We build structures our entire lives. We build structures. We build ourselves into people. We build ourselves into observant people. We keep mitzvahs. We keep the commandments. We do the things that we're meant to do. But the question is, are we really done? Because are the lights on? They tell a beautiful Maisa of a fellow that worked for the train company. And he was the fellow that stood by the crossroads, and he would wave his lantern when a train was coming to tell the cars that they shouldn't pass through. One night there was a terrible storm and a terrible tragedy, and a car was run over by a train. Many people died. There was an inquiry. There was a trial. And as one of the witnesses for the train company, defending the train company, was the Torchbearer. And they called him to the stand and they asked him if he was there that night, and he said yes. Was he outside? Yes, he was outside. Did he have his torch? Absolutely. Was he waving his torch? Absolutely. And the court found in favor of the train company. This man's testimony saved them millions of dollars in damages they would have had to pay out. He was touted as a hero. And when he was lifted up on the shoulders of his friends, he turned to his friend and he said, I'm lucky that they didn't ask me if my lantern was on. We wave lanterns. We have positions. We have shittas. We have ideologies. We do things. We put on our tefillin. We keep Shabbos. We keep kosher. We talk about midos. We talk about our character. But we have to stop and ask ourselves the question, are the lights on? Because when the lights are on, when inside there is illumination, when inside there is a fire, that's when we know that we've completed the building of our building, and that's when that's when it is beautiful. When the lights go on, that's when we know that we've actually built a structure. We've actually accomplished something. And if we find ourselves spinning our wheels, if we find ourselves waving our lanterns, but there's no light on inside, then that's what we have to focus on. How do I get that fire, that excitement, that enthusiasm, that desire for all that I'm doing? Because that's the completion of the building. That's when we know we're done. That's when we know we've actually built a structure that is the kavod tiferes, something that is truly beautiful and truly worthy of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, resting on it. Everybody should have an amazingly beautiful Shabbos. A Shabbos that's not just a building, but a Shabbos that's illuminated. A Shabbos that's a fire. A Shabbos where the lantern of Shabbos that we're waving has the brightest of lights on inside. Have a beautiful Shabbos.